Welcome everyone to today's session. Um, Welcome to Stratum Insight, and today we are going to talk about Stratum view management. My name's Adam Kurtz, and I'll be stepping you through today's topic, where we'll talk a little bit about the Stratum Data Hub. We'll get into the view management and archiving tasks. We'll also look at how to archive Stratum data. How do you manage other things within Stratum to make it more efficient and cleaner, like users and other objects, like user groups and user lists. And then we'll get into a little bit on the customizing of the look and feel of the view groups. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, and we'll try to keep tabs on any questions coming in for today's topic. As you can see, the Stratum Data Hub, we'll be talking a little bit about just basically this pertains to the Stratum analytics side of things. On the web-based analysis, we'll be focusing more on the Stratum viewer interface today, because that's where all the admin menus reside, so that you can effectively manage your views and the other objects within the administrative screens that are available, which is basically what we'll cover today. So depending on what version you're running, it would depend on how you would get to the view menu so that you could actually see and analyze the views that you have within Stratum. So they're for the later versions, they're on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see that there's a hamburger menu there in the upper right-hand side of the interface that you would then go into. And if you click on that, obviously it would go ahead and expand out, and you would then select Manage Things and View. So that's one way to get to the View menu. On the more older versions, as you can see, it's in the Admin Utilities View group. So there you would be able to expand that particular menu, and then you would have the option to go into the view menu from there as well. So again, depending on what version you're running, would basically depend on what menu you would go to get into the view management list. Whereas, as you can see there below, once you get there, you'll see all the views listed out. You could then, obviously, there's some things that you can do here. Once you get to that view menu, you can search on certain things. You can search on any keyword in the view name. You can sort on any of the columns. So if you sort on last used in descending fashion, you'll see that which views are being used more recently. You can even flip the sort around to see which views are not being used, and then you can make some decisions there in terms of what you want to do with those views. Once you identify the views that you do want to clean up, there is and you can highlight all the views that you want to clean up. As you can see, they're all highlighted there within the view menu. You could then use the move to selected view groups. There's an icon that allows you to do that there. It's highlighted. And once you select that icon, it will then show the menu of which view group that you want to move these to. The concept here would be to have an archive folder available so that you can move these views, as you can see, in a pretty efficient, manner to get those into the archive view group. The archive view group, you can then just make that available to the administrators within the interface so that only administrators would then be able to gain access to the archived views. You might ask yourself, why don't we just delete the views? Well, you could do that, of course, if that's something that you feel comfortable with. But as Murphy's Law normally is, the user would then ask for the view back. In that case, it would be difficult to get that view back if it's deleted. So if you simply just move the view over to the archive folder, then you can obviously retrieve the view, and it would be available so that you can make it available to the users again as needed. So it's a good concept. Again, up to you in terms of what you want to do there. But you can either just move it to the archive folder or delete them completely. More on the data management side of things, you could also clean up the number of years that you're making available within viewer, so that this really kind of cleans up the time menus so that users don't have all these years that they have to scroll through to get to certain years that they want to analyze on. So this is more of an administrative function on the server side because this requires you to get to the server where the connector is installed and access that so that you could then go in and deselect certain years of data that you want to make unavailable to the viewer interface. That doesn't mean you have to clear the data out from Stratum. You could still have the data available on the back end side of things, but here you're just deselecting them to so that they're not available within the interface, essentially, so that the users won't actually see those years. So it does clean up some of the drop-down menus you'll see for time range, filters for certain years. Obviously, those are not going to show up. Okay, so it does clean up quite a few things. And let's face it, those years are really old. So if you have data going way back there, um, God bless you. But nevertheless, that's one way to at least hide the data from the users and hide the views or the years in this case, so that obviously the lists are much shorter and concise. The menu down below is a way to clear the data. So if you're not aware, our administrative interface actually has menus that provide the ability to clear out data by the different categories of data that you have within Stratum. So if you do want to clear out like old years of history, this would be one way where you can go in and kick off these clear data jobs so that you can just wipe out those years. And that'll save you some disk space depending on, how many records you have within these years of tables. Once you clear that out, then obviously that buys you disk space back. And that's always a good thing. Other things that you can do within the viewer interface is to customize it so that it matches whatever color scheme you want to go for. For the left frame menu, where the view groups reside, this will control, what they look like and what those menus will look like. As you can see, you get a preview of what you've selected for the Stratum view pane. Also for the views, similarly, you can go in and select, the row coloring that you'll have as a default within the views. You can provide border coloring, data caption, formatting, font selection and color. And then down below, you can see the page size. You can then make that and change that at a global level. So, and this is in the application menu, which by the way has changed. So some of that we'll take a look at that in the demo, but they kind of changed some of the administrative menus as well. So we'll take a quick look at that once we get into the demo. But yeah, you can obviously go in and make these changes and really just kind of customize the application to the look and feel you're looking for. Other things to archive, old user profiles. Another thing that is a good thing for you to do is to go through your user profiles to see if any folks need to be removed from the application. When you remove a user, it will ask you to reassign their objects to another user profile. Um, I believe you can delete them as well as an option so that if you do want to make these other things if it's still available even though that user who created them is gone, you can then transfer and reassign those objects to another user profile. Similarly, you can do the same thing for user lists. So just like the views, you can select the user list that you want, um, and you can play the same game in terms of the user list menu where you can sort it by date last used, and then you can decide whether you want to, just whack the older user lists that are not being used. Okay. User links as well, same concept. You can go in if you're using user links to take users to other applications or websites. That's typically what the user links are used for. So definitely you can go in there and manage those. Those tend to be not as used as prevalently as the user list and clearly the user profiles for sure. So that's my name, that's my email, that's my phone number. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me about anything regarding Stratum. I'll be glad to help you, try to answer your questions and help you out. So don't hesitate to contact me for anything regarding Stratum. All right, let's take a look at the demo of some of these concepts. So how do we get to our views? There's my view pane. As you can see, it's blue with white fonts, and as I extract or expand these menus, I can get access to the views. Nothing too fancy. If we go over here to the hamburger menu in the upper right-hand corner, I click on that and I can go to my manage things where I can then go to the view menu. So that's one way to get to the view menu. Another way would be if you go back home, you can just come up here for the search and you can either put in a keyword that you want to search for or just hit enter and it will take you to that menu as well. That's probably a quicker way to do it. So, you have multiple ways to get there. I'm gonna go ahead and collapse my left frame menu and I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about this menu here because again, these are all my views. And as you can see, I can then look at just active versus inactive views. I can um, sort on or filter on owner. So, depending on what you want to search for, as you can see, you can go in here and type in certain keywords like actual sales. If I go and search all views for the word actual sales, interestingly enough, I only get one view for that. If I just change that to sales, I imagine I'll get more. Yeah, so quite a few more. These are all the views that has sales in their view name. As we can see, there's quite a few. If you ever want to know how many you're looking at, you can go to the bottom of the menu and you can see a number that basically shows you, um, a number there in terms of the total. So basically, for all the views that have the word sales in it, I've got clearly 172 views of those. So again, that's if you want to look for a specific owner, then you can go in and search on the owner's name, and then you can see all the views that are available for that particular owner. This is a nice thing to do if you do want to remove some of these. Maybe the employee moved on, or you can reassign them to another user if you delete the user profile. Um, all right, so that's kind of how you can look for and search for certain things within this menu. You can let's get rid of that search criteria, and we will just kind of go back in here. So here we're back to root. If I go down to the bottom, I can see that I've got basically 631 views, probably too many. But nevertheless, that's my number. And I've been to other customers' sites and environments, and yeah, I've seen many more than that. So something you might want to think about, going in, analyzing what views you have, which ones are really old, are they being used? So you have quite a few different columns here that I can go into. If I see which ones were created, I can sort on that particular column by simply just clicking on one of the column headers there. So these are the ones that are created a long time ago. If I flip that sort around, I can then see that some were created a couple days ago. So, and you can see who was created by and when. And so, yeah, you get a lot of information about that. So that's one way to see older views is when they were created. But probably more useful would be when it was last used. So, I can play the same game here. Here we can see in an ascending sort that, these views haven't been used for, good Lord, 8 years. So quite a few views here that fit that criteria. Here we can see that these views haven't been run since 2017. So these might be a good candidate for archiving, where I can then highlight those views within the list, and then pursue my move to the view group for the archive. So as I select that, I get my view groups that are available, and there's my archive view group, and I can just select that and click OK and get those moved over. So once I move those over, then obviously those become available within just my archive view group. And even though they are still available here, I can still get to these. The regular users don't have the ability to get to the archive view group, so they will never see that. So in their world, it's gone, right? So it doesn't really exist any longer. So, or you can just delete them, right? If I delete them, that then it'll confirm with me, are you sure you want to go ahead and delete those? So you do have a final menu here that you can confirm whether you want to go ahead with the deletion or not. I'm going to say no. So again, these are different ways you can go in, see the views that are available, sort on the specific columns that you want to sort on, search for keywords that you're looking for, to find that specific view that you want to manage. So those are the views. And what other things that we can go to and manage would be, the view groups or the user profile. A lot of things to manage here, but mostly view related. We can go in and see all the view groups that we have as well. And we can see that here are all the view groups that are available. And we can see that, we can go in and it gives us a little more information about how many views they have per view group. You can search again if there's a keyword that you're looking for. Some of these might have user links in them as well, so it shows you which ones have either user links or views in them and which ones are active. As you can see, some of these are inactive, but most of them are certainly active. So basically, this would be yet another menu that you can go in and manage these, delete them as needed, clean up your environment. Um, the user list menu, again, same concept here. It gives you all the lists of the user list that you have. If you're not familiar with what a user list is, it's basically a list of items like products or a list of customers that certain users have created so that they can throw that in as a quick filter. So that's what we call a user list. Some of them can be dynamic, some of them can be static. Um, and you can use these when you want to filter on certain groups of things. It's an easier way to do that. Um, so again, you can search for certain user list keywords. If I want to sort this on last used, I can see that some of these are really old and haven't been used for several years. So, again, you can play the same game here, right? Which ones do I want to keep? Which ones do I want to delete? I can go in and, well, those are the display options for the menu, but basically I don't have the concept of an archive here. So it's only a deletion. So you want to make sure that, you want to clean these up appropriately so that, again, they don't have just a tons of user lists out there, cluttering the menus. Again, it's the same concept here is to kind of clean up the application and make sure that you only have things that really are relevant. So again, that would be something you could do there. And then finally, if you are a security administrator, again, the user profiles, um, last used, when's the last time the user went in and used the product, which is a nice way to look at it as well. So we can see, a list of users here and when's the last time they came in and logged in. And you can see I'm actively in right now. Um, if I were to delete any of these users, again, it's going to ask me to, whether I want to delete these objects or reassign them to another user. For instance, if I were to delete Paul's user profile, which I won't do, he would be not happy. But if I were to reassign his global objects, which would be like global views, global user lists, um, shared views or personal views, personally, again, you can cover the gamut in terms of all the different objects that belong to Paul in this particular example, right? Do I want to reassign these to somebody else, right? And then you'll have the ability to go ahead and reassign these to whomever it might be, yourself or any other user that you deem appropriate. Okay, so cleaning up, right? Cleaning up your views, cleaning up your user list, the view groups themselves. Those are the different ways that you can, obviously the user profiles. If you're a secure administrator, this would be the menus you would need to go into to manage the application and clean it up. Um, and like I said, I'm on the latest release, so if I go to my manage things, I will now have, given that I'm on the latest release, two different menus for administrative application. We've actually split some of this up because these menus were getting quite large. So we split up application options, and then we split out system configuration options. What does this mean? Well, essentially, it means, like I said before, if you want to customize these view group, the view pane here on the left side, as you can see, when you go into application options, this is where that would reside. In prior versions, I believe it's just called application, right? But here's again where I can then manage the look and feel. If I want something different, I can go in and play around with that and see what that would look like. Right. Select that. It gives me a quick preview. It doesn't really get applied unless I save it, up in the on the save button there. Row coloring, fonts, sizing, page size options. If you're using planning, what font does the or color does the font change to when a plan is changed? And then down below, you can see that there's default measure item caption expression settings for your time range views, and then default Excel settings for downloads. So again, you would come here for these now, and then what we split out with the latest version is we can go to the system configuration then for stuff like oh gosh, registration keys, global homepage, system generated emails, which has been revamped, as you can see. So you can decide what these emails will contain. Will they say? Who will they go to for, completions of broadcast emails, anything failed or completed for that broadcast. These connector, well, the connector is actually done on the connector side of things. So this is strictly just for broadcasts induced emails, right? And then further down below are some other options that we'll talk about in another session. Like, these are some of the new default locations for data cloud import. So now you can import data from Azure cloud sources, and you would be able to go in and put connection strings in here and other settings so that you can get to those appropriately. So another topic for another time. But if you do have questions about any of this, feel free to contact me.